Hey, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to LD's portion of the Dota show. Man, it's been quite a break. I guess it's been 3 weeks at this point since we paused things. Heading into the international, and oh, what a hopeful, what a glorious time it was back then when I was young and sweet and innocent and free. I apologize. I know there's some static. I've been having a few technical issues on my end, but hopefully you can hear me for the most part and it's not too distracting. You know, it's one of these things where if I hadn't said anything, it probably wouldn't bother you. But because I had to go and say something, it's going to drive you insane now. At least if you're anything like me, it will. So the one thing you can do if it is bothering you, turn on some music in the background. Sorry, guys. But that's neither here nor there. So let's sort of dive into... we're not going to dive right into the show's content. We are getting a little bit of a late start today. But I haven't really done any videos, at least not where I've sort of gotten to share with you guys and chat since the International. So I have three sort of funny little anecdotes from the International that I want to share. But before I get to those, I just want to let you guys know I've been going through absolute hell as far as computer issues go for you right now. I'm just going to give you like kind of a tour through my desk area at all of the cables that I'm dealing with, because yeah, it's pretty bad. So this is my monitor, and then here's where the mess begins. So we have all these cables here, just trying to get my stinking microphone to connect. This doesn't look too bad, right? But then if we actually go, I'm just gonna get up and show you guys. But I have like a laptop sitting around and other microphones. I think I've gone through like 4 microphones and 2 mixers, or preamps as they're called at this point, just trying to get things working. And that's just the tip of the iceberg. A lot of stuff I have actually thrown. I have actually thrown not in the trash, but sort of in the discard pile. You know, it like when you get this many cables, like it gets difficult to even find the cable you want. So what I've been having to do a lot of times is like unplug everything and then go through them one by one, start plugging things back in again. I'm sure there's a simpler way. I'm not an audio expert, but I'll make it like it's when it started off. It was just a simple plug and play USB microphone. Somehow I have like 20 different devices now, and I have more static. So the more money I invest in good equipment, the more time I spend to try and set it up. Apparently, the worse everything gets. What could I say? Okay, with all that being said, the International. So a lot of fun things happened there. I met a lot of great people. It was a wonderful opportunity. The fans were amazing. I had a couple people come up and ask me for my autograph. And just like Lumi, it's something I would never expect people to want my autograph, but hey, they did. And I gotta say, I didn't practice my signature, and if anybody's watching who got my signature, you'll be the first to admit to the stream if you're here that I have a pretty horrible signature. It's not memorable. The handwriting sucks. It could basically be a baby making that signature, and you wouldn't know the difference. But it's mine. It's mine, and I'm proud of that, I guess. So that was fun. I mean, Valve did such a great job taking care of us, even though we got there a little bit late compared to a lot of the people on the analyst desk, and some of the news guys got there. They were lucky; they got to spend the week of the group stage there. But even though we got there kind of at the last minute, the one day that we had off before everything kicked off, we had a great tour of the Valve offices. It's funny because I went to Valve and I tried to get in. I wanted the tour because I don't know if you guys have been following it all, but there are all these pictures backstage of all the fun that everyone was having. They were hanging out with Valve, like eating food with them, enjoying their free Red Bulls, the gum. I mean, just all the free stuff, and they're all just hanging out together. It's like a Dota paradise, basically. And then I'm sitting in my apartment. I'm losing my voice from casting 12 hours a day. I'm tired. I can't sleep. I'm getting 3 hours here and there. I mean, it was a blast, don't get me wrong, but part of me was a little bit jealous, so... I did get a tour of the Valve offices in the end, but when I first got there, big shout out to Christina from Valve, but she did let me in. She basically said they weren't planning on having anyone at the offices. Then I come back later in the day, I think it was with Nebula or maybe Bruno, someone else who had been there for the previous week, and they just strutted right in, no problem, or just like hanging out in the back. I'm like, man, I must have missed the secret handshake or something. But oh, my favorite stories from the event. Well, the one ongoing joke, which was really funny, at least for me, was Luminous's suit. So for anyone who doesn't know, Lumi and I, we had an agreement before the event that we weren't going to wear suits. We talked about it. He wanted to initially. Then we actually went through pictures of other commentators. I think we looked at Diapollo from StarCraft, and we sort of settled on like his level of dressing up for events. Is like, this is what we want. It's kind of weird for a bunch of gamers to even give any thought to that. But a nice button-down shirt, some slacks, and good to go. So I thought that was the agreement. That was my understanding. I did some shopping before the event with that in mind. And then I get to the event, and what do you know? Lumi is wearing a full-on suit every single day. The only thing he's lacking was the tie. And I didn't have one. I just didn't bring it. And it was one of these things where I probably, if I had the money, if I had the time, I would have gone out and bought a suit for myself just to be on par. But, I was more well-dressed than not all the other commentators, but most of the English commentators as at least as well-dressed, if not more well-dressed. But sitting next to Luby in the suit, man, I looked sloppy, to be honest. And, I was pretty well-dressed. But, it's all about your surroundings, right? Because you could be wearing just a polo shirt, but if everybody surrounding you is wearing pizza-stained T-shirts, then you're going to look pretty suave. So this was an ongoing joke. Like, constantly, everybody would come up to me and just be like, "Oh man, you look nice, like you're doing a good job, but man, Lumi is sexy. Lumi has it together with his suit." Oh, I got so tired of hearing it. The next person who comes up to me and says something about it, I'm just gonna strangle them. But no, it was a lot of fun, and he did look sharp, I have to say. So my next event, if I have another event, if I'm not permanently banned from the tour, I will be wearing a suit. That is for sure. The other funny thing that happened, well, again, these are only snapshots. There's a lot of stories I had, but I know you guys want some Dota content too. Not just hearing me wax poetic all night long. So the second of three is Grand Grant on the second night of the event. Grand Grant, big shout out to him. He was very friendly in person. I gotta say I was a little disappointed because he's a big troll online. He says a lot of stuff, and then he comes to the event, and he's like the nicest, sweetest guy you'll ever meet. And it's just, it wasn't bad. I mean, I'm glad he was nice. I think it would have been very awkward if he wasn't. A little inconsistent, though, I gotta say. But the second night, Grand Grant, to put it mildly, was drunk. He was sloshed, he was sloppy, he was wasted, and he was Gumby. So I don't know if, for those, we may have some younger viewers in the stream, but for anyone who's drank before or has been around people who drink before, sometimes when people get drunk, they sort of lose control of their bodies. Now, I'm not talking about like so drunk you can't even stand, like puking over a toilet, needing to pass out. That's way too far drunk. But Grant was at that delightful or terrifying point in the spectrum of being drunk where you're drunk, but you're not so drunk that you can't stand up anymore. You're not so drunk that you need to pass out. You probably should drink a little more, and you probably should go pass out, but you're not there yet. So he was Gumby, basically, at the event. And what I mean by that is, I don't know if you guys have ever watched the way that Gumby is a cartoon, or not, is it a cartoon? It's like a claymation character. I guess you'd say in an American TV show. God, I don't even remember what the show's about, but I just remember the character. He's very distinctive. And he's sort of shaped out of clay, and the way he moves is just very, like, kind of awkward and sort of mobile, and Grant could not hold himself still. He just kept on swaying back and forth the entire night. Like, literally from left foot to right foot. This is what a lot of drunk people do when they're, like, at the obnoxiously drunk and need a lot of attention level of drunk, but not needing to pass out quite yet drunk. That's where he was all night long. So I started calling him Gumby. He got really mad at me, and then, like, 5 seconds later completely forgot it. Forgot who I was, forgot what I had said, and then did it all over again. So that was a lot of fun. The last thing that happened on the final night of the event, after the grand finals, after the after party, I went with Andrew Kim, one of the Valve guys, does some of the artwork. He's awesome as well. Blitz and Hayoka from Team Liquid, a couple of other people from the event. I think Flamewheel from Team Liquid was there as well. I think Blitz's future roommate was there, although his name is escaping right now. A couple other people. Anyway, if I miss anyone, sorry about that, guys. But we went to this diner. It's called the Pink Button, I think. Something like that. It was in I want to call it a developing area, you might say. But, you know, it wasn't the nicest area where this restaurant is, but the food was fantastic. It was like what, 1 o'clock in the morning. You could just get like fried rice and sushi or really whatever kind of Asian food you wanted. You know, nothing like super complicated, but just a lot of cheap, delicious food. So people had been drinking. Even those who weren't drunk were at least hungry. It had been a long day to say the least. And the finals. I mean, even though it was only 4 games, it was still a pretty long day. So people were hungry. They were eating, and they were enjoying their food. And we have a great meal. We leave. It's late. It's the final night, so we're all sort of saying our goodbyes. We have a devil of a time getting a cab. So we're there for a while after the meal. I want to say, I don't know, maybe 30, 45 minutes or so. A pretty decent amount of time, anyway. And we're waiting for a cab. We call the company. They said they're sending a car. The car's not there yet. And all of a sudden, I mean, it's Valve, so I guess it's only fair that there are some zombies, but the zombies, they start coming out of the woodwork. And I'm not even exaggerating, guys. It actually felt like a little bit of Left 4 Dead action because, again, it's in a slightly sketchy area, I guess you could say, and it was really late at night, and crackheads just started coming out of nowhere. I really felt like I was in, and I live in Philadelphia, so there's always all sorts of miscreants here, and plenty of drug users, plenty of, it's unfortunate to see people in that situation, but plenty of people who are, doing things they shouldn't be doing, and maybe making it a little bit uncomfortable. This was just like a swarm of crackheads, and they really just came out of nowhere, and it's like, ugh, ugh. They weren't that bad, but the way they appeared out of the shadows and just slowly sort of enclosed on us, I felt like I was in a zombie movie, which, again, what a way to end the weekend, because this was with Valve, the creators of Left 4 Dead. It had some horror content along the way, so it was fun. It was a little weird, but the food there was great. I highly recommend it. Okay, that's just a few stories from my time at the event. I think that about covers it. I have more. I was planning on making a blog, basically detailing all my experiences from the event, and sort of talking about my journey from not casting at all to being at the International in about 6 months, which I think it's kind of an interesting story. But my webcam has been acting up and like flickering. I've been having the microphone static, and if I'm going to record something like that, I actually did record it. I want to do it properly, so we'll see. But anyway, guys, yeah, that does it for sort of the background. If you have any questions about the event, you can ask me at the end of the episode, but without any further ado, it is time for today's episode. Now, it's a bit of a change in your scheduled programming. We're not actually going to be doing initiation today. Dota 101 will be moved to tomorrow, but today we're going to be looking at Carry Tiny. This is personally one of my absolute favorite carry heroes in the game right now, and I'm a guy. I like my anti-mage, I like my Hand of Midas, I like farming a lot. I don't like watching them, I don't like casting them, but I do like playing them because I love gold. But as far as carries go, there is a soft spot in my heart for Tiny right now, and especially the Carry Tiny build. We're going to dive into that, talk a lot about it. We've sort of been taking a break from solo mid the past couple of weeks. It's been a while, but we did offlane Bounty Hunter. We talked about, I think the last solo mid that we talked about was Old School Tinker, and that was a while ago. We talked about Rubik, so I guess that was the last one. It was Rubik and then it was Tinker. But yeah, we're gonna look at solo mid Tiny, but it's not really about the position of Tiny in this game. It's about the role he's playing as sort of the primary damage dealer for the team and as that one position hero. So with all that being said, I have my game ready to go, and we're gonna jump into it now. Just fair warning, I was a little bit rusty when I played this one, so you might see some sloppy mistakes from me, but hopefully it will be educational. Hopefully it will be somewhat entertaining. And now I have no video. Come on. Work with me here, Dota. Dota. Okay, we're good. So, I am Tiny. I am going solo mid. This is a relatively long game, so I will be fast-forwarded at parts. But yeah, we'll get underway here. The laning stage of this game is not too terribly interesting, so we'll keep the camera on me. And while I'm doing that, I'm actually just going to start talking about Tiny. It's something I do at the beginning of all the Larry's Lab, or LD's Lab episodes. Just to introduce the hero, the skill build, as well as the abilities. So, Tiny, traditionally in Dota, he's been played as a magical damage, kind of burst ganker. Not really as a carry. His Aghanims upgrade is the big reason he can be a carry now, and it was only introduced, I mean, it's been in the game for a while, but back when I was playing Dota 1, it wasn't even in the game. I took a break from Dota 1 for a while, so I mean, this is going back a bit. But before this was introduced, and before players really understood how powerful it could be, it was not actually player perspective. It's not actually fully understood. So generally, the skill build with Tiny, whether you're going to be playing the carry build or whether you're just going for a ganking style, is get Avalanche at level 1, max toss by 7, get your ult when you can. Now, some people will be asking, why don't you max Avalanche toss the combo? It actually turns out we have a Dota... we are working on a top secret project, and as part of that project, we've actually done some math research into Tiny. And it turns out that after a lot of math and a lot of head scratching, the most efficient way to do maximum damage with your Avalanche Toss combo, which we'll talk more about throughout this video, is going to be by maxing Toss by level 7, getting your ult whenever you can, and then going back to max Avalanche afterwards. Now, the old way to play him, the old conventional understanding, was to max Avalanche first, and then go back for Toss, and skip the ult until later on. But that's actually not the best way to maximize the damage of your combo. So, with all that being said, let's go through the abilities. Avalanche. This is his AoE stun, one of his signature abilities. In Dota 1, it has a lot of very, very small damage procs. In Dota 2, it's about 4. And the reason I bring this up is it does have you get stunned in waves. So when you cast Avalanche, there's a tiny bit of a delay before units in the area that you're targeting start getting stunned. It's an AoE stun, but it happens in waves. And the damage comes in waves. So it's good against heroes like Templar Assassin because it has multiple procs of damage. So it can eat through a refraction, not completely, not as much as it does in Dota 1, where it pretty much completely counters her because of the way that it's coded. But it still does a couple of waves of damage. Now it does up to 300 damage by the time you get level 4, but it actually has the potential to do a lot more than that because of his second ability, Toss. So Avalanche, pretty basic AoE stun. The one thing to keep in mind with this one is you cast it, and then there's a bit of time that passes. I want to say like a quarter of a second, half a second, before the stun actually kicks in. So you have to sort of predict your opponent's movements. Because you can stun, and it can look like it's going to hit them, but they won't actually get stunned. Just because it takes a second before it actually kicks off. But, with all that being said, Toss is the second ability. What this ability does, randomly within a 275 AoE near your hero, you're going to pick something up and throw it in the air. Now, when you throw a unit in the air, they can't do anything during that time, so they can't cast spells or anything like that. It's a very versatile ability, and we'll see some of the ways how it can be used later in this game. You can use it, of course, just traditionally. The ideal way to do maximum damage is you Avalanche and then you toss an enemy hero. You use the combination of those skills together, and it does up to double Avalanche damage if you time it perfectly. Normally you want to start with the Avalanche and then follow up with Toss. Occasionally there will be exceptions, but that is the general way that you want to use the combo. And the reason for that is, again, I talked about Avalanche, the damage coming in waves. If you cast Avalanche and then immediately, not immediately, but within I think it's with about a half second after you cast it, you then toss the opponent. It ensures that every single damage wave from Avalanche will be double. Because a unit that gets thrown in the air by Toss, the Avalanche damage can affect them twice, for each wave of Avalanche. So anyway, Toss, it used to damage your allies. You can toss allies, you can also toss creeps, you can toss enemy heroes. Again, it's random what you actually pick up. It used to damage allies, it used to when you toss them in there, but now it doesn't actually do that. It only damages enemies if you toss them. It's a pretty versatile spell. You can use it to initiate. So let's say you have a hero like Tidehunt on your team, you can toss them in to set up a Ravage. One trick I really like to use is if your enemy ever gets too close to the creep wave, let's just actually pause right now. Let's suppose the creeps are fighting here. Nightstalker comes in a little bit too close. I can walk next to him, position myself properly, and toss him back to my ranged creep. Then he's going to be under the tower taking a lot of damage. So in the laning stage, there are nice little tricks like this you can do with Toss. It can be hard to set them up. It's going to be a lot easier against a melee hero. And this is a pretty good matchup for me in the middle lane. Nightstalker is a good solo mate. He's got more armor than me. He could be harassing me more than he is. So he's not really playing the matchup to perfection. But I have really high base damage. And generally, Tiny will be happy against most melees in a 1v1. He's not a very strong laning hero. That is one of his weaknesses, is that he's not the strongest laning hero, and I'm going to unfortunately miss a rune. So yeah, generally Toss, a very underrated spell. The cooldown on this is lower than Avalanche, so You'll often see players will use their full avalanche toss combo when farming creep waves, but it's important to note that toss is a much lower cooldown, 7 seconds lower at all levels. So if you can use one of these spells to farm, try to make it toss. Try not to use avalanche to farm unless you need to do so, because toss is lower cooldown, so you can use toss to farm a wave and then still have it back up for a fight. Sometimes you don't even want to use your combo to kill enemy heroes. It's it's sort of like using a Laguna Blade to kill a 100 HP hero. Not really the most cost-effective way to go about it, or damage-effective way. Not the most efficient way to go about it. There you go. That's what I'm trying to say. The other thing to note about Toss is it does more damage as Tiny gets bigger. So as you level up Grow, Toss will hit harder. That's why it ends up being the most effective to max Toss and get the ultimate instead of maxing Avalanche first. Because of the way that Toss will do more damage when Grow gets leveled up. Okay, so his third ability, Craggy Exterior. Generally, you're going to want to max this. You're only going to want to take this last. You'll see some players, I think most notably Sing Sing, who plays a lot of Tiny, especially in pubs, just skip this ability entirely. Now, Craggy Exterior, it's mostly effective against melee heroes. But that's not to say it's not good otherwise. It gives you, at level 4, it will give you 5 armor, which is a chainmail's worth of armor for 4 skill points. It is 4 skill points. You could have +8 to all stats instead, so it is an investment. But what it's really good against is heroes like Night Stalker, Chaos Knight, Broodmother. In this game, it's going to be very powerful. And again, because the way that this ability works is if you're within 300 units of attack range and you hit an enemy hero, whether you're ranged here or not, it's just you have to be close to Tiny. But if you're inside of that AoE, then there's a chance to be stunned. It's a pretty high chance. So this ability, this is really Tiny's only significant passive, aside from Grow. He doesn't have as many passives as other heroes that are thought of as carries, like a Faceless Void or an Anti-Mage, who are really their signature abilities are going to be Spell Shield and Backtrack, these really exciting, the evasion, the opportunity to block damage and built-in bash. On paper, Tiny doesn't have that many steroids, but this one allows him to stand toe-to-toe with a lot of the strongest carries in the game, because every time a hero like Faceless Void or Anti-Mage tries to hit him, there's a chance they'll get stunned. So Craggy Exterior, underrated. You'll see some players will skip it, like I mentioned, and situationally, it could be okay not to level it up. At least getting 1 point, I think, is worth it. 1 skill point for 2 armor, and a decent chance to stun is going to be pretty effective. The chance to stun goes up, but you can see the damage. There's damage to it, but it's pretty insignificant. And Night Stalker's actually having his way with me. And finally, his last ability is Grow. Man, I'm really taking my time with these abilities, aren't I, guys? Sorry, I'll try and speed things up. But Grow, this ability, again, people used to skip it entirely until Avalanche Toss was max, but nowadays, you do want to take this whenever you can. It's going to improve your combo damage. It's also just going to allow you to farm better. Increases your damage. Importantly, it increases your movement speed. And this is something that we're going to take advantage of with the Carry Tiny build. You'll see that here. And once you get Agonum Sceptor, Grow is where you get all of your damage from. The Agonum Sceptor plus Grow combination. So anyway, I've been sitting mid. I've been up against the Night Stalker solo mid. I got a little bit unlucky with runes. But for the most part, I've been out farming him. I've been controlling the lane pretty well. A little bit of bottle crowing. I highly recommend that you do this whenever you can. You see me bottle crow a lot, but Tiny is a great candidate to bottle crow because he's very mono dependent. He has good AoE nukes to push the wave. My team's getting picked off a lot. In terms of my item build, I'm going for the standard item build for Carry Tiny. This is something which I first saw with TC. I don't really know who came up with it first. But TC from Complexity is the one I've seen use it the most. Is you start off with Phase Boots, you get a bottle, maybe a magic wand for your mana regen needs. And then you go back into a Drum of Endurance. You follow that up. It depends. Sometimes with a Yasha, sometimes just rushing the Aghanims and then going back for Yasha. But usually a Manta Style and an Aghanims is going to be the combo you want to go for. The reason for this, the reason it's so effective, is Aghanims will give you a ton of damage when you get your big stick, when you get the big tree that you're carrying around. It allows you to cleave, and you hit really hard from your ultimate form. But the one thing that Tiny's lacking in is attack speed. He has so much damage, but he has no attack speed. So the best way to maximize your DPS in terms of the cost is just to go ahead and get attack speed items. So that's why you see TC, that's why you see most of the Carry Tiny players going for items like Manta Style, Drum of Endurance, even Butterfly, Assault Cuirass. These are all very common items to get on Carry Tiny. Those are going to be sort of your luxury items. But the core is really the Phase Boots, the Drum of Endurance, maybe a Yasha, but then the bottle, the magic wand, and then you go for the Yasha, the Aghanims, that sort of thing. So I'm not there yet. I am spending a lot of time farming this game. Actually pretty far ahead of everyone else in the game. If you're playing more as the primary damage on your team, though, that's not a bad way to go. Now, I'm solo mid. Nightstalker's out ganking me. I really would like to have a TP right now. I believe there's one being delivered on the courier at the moment. Although Tiny is I'm playing him as a carry. I'm calling it carry Tiny. Tiny isn't a hero like anti-mage. And no TP, so that's a bit of a mistake. He doesn't just farm. Tiny, and this to me is really what makes him such an amazing hero. I'm going to find Nightstalker. Pick up a kill there. Now, what do you know, the rune is going to be spawning soon, so I'll wait and check that. But he provides you a lot more utility throughout the game. He gives you an AoE stun, he gives you a nuke in toss, can clear waves quickly, can push waves quickly. Because of those nukes, can do a decent job soloing mid, controlling the creep equilibrium, pushing it back out. So he's pretty good in the early to mid game with the burst damage and having a stun. It's always a good... If you can ever just get a kill instantly, that's going to make you strong here in the early to mid game, because then suddenly you have a 5v4 situation, 4v3 situation, and a much better chance of your team coming out ahead. So you can farm on him. You will be farming if you go for the carry Tiny build, because it does require quite a few items. But you don't just want to sit in lane and farm all day like a hero like Anti-Mage, or even to a certain extent like a hero like Morphling. And uh-oh, that is not where I want to be. 4-second stun. I'm probably going to go down here. So I'm trying to do the right thing, which is going to be ganking. Unfortunately, oh my god, look at the reality range, or the reality rift range. Man, that spell, it's pretty damn good. Now they saw me here, they saw me go into the jungle. I believe this is their ward, although I'm not sure why it's not giving me vision. Oh, it's because I'm on player perspective. So they did a vision of that. That was a bit of a blunder. I think Fleshwind here is even telling me that they knew I was there. But it was the right idea, even though things didn't work out. When you have a rune like a haste rune on Tiny, you can easily pick up double kills. He really makes great use of runes. He has that naturally high damage. He's a hero that has trouble getting in range to start off fights. That's the other benefit to the early phase boots, the Drum of Endurance. It helps you to chase a lot, and this is one of Tiny's weaknesses as a hero, and especially as a physical damage dealer. It's why traditionally we've seen players go for things like Blink Dagger or Force Staff on Tiny. It used to be that just a bunch of utility items was sort of the way to play Tiny, or even an item like Dagon, just for more burst damage. But if you're going for the carry Tiny item build, generally you skip a Blink Dagger, you skip a Force Staff, you skip those mobility items, you skip those items that help set up your combo, your initiation, and instead you go for a bunch of move speed and attack speed items. So the move speed in particular between phase boots and drums will allow you to close the gap pretty well and set up kills. So I use an avalanche toss combo. I'm going to go look to set something at bottom, and I think I'm going to get a kill here. Nope. I have to run away. Now the phase boots are going to save my ass here, I believe. Yep, wand and the... Oh, the craggy exterior procs. So yeah, that's why it is worth getting, guys. You'll see players skip this ability, but it is not to be underestimated. It's pretty strong, and a little bit of luck there. You really can't count on it hitting. I'm gonna dive really far for this, but yeah, you're gonna see an avalanche. You kind of have to predict where they're going, and I'm gonna toss CK onto Lion. So this sets up an opportunity for a double kill for my team. It also sets up, maybe not. But this is something you'll see good Tiny players really try and do, is whenever possible, don't just avalanche toss a single hero unless you need that burst to kill them, but actually toss one hero onto another and then avalanche the area where they both land. That way you can maximize the AoE damage overall, and yes, you're doing less damage to a single hero, but you're doing more total to the two of them. Oh, that glimpse might actually save this guy. One more auto attack! Oh, I think he's gonna live. Oh, this is so aggravating to watch. When you see me following a fight like that with my camera, you know I'm secretly... No, he gets sniped. Okay, cool. But, you know I'm secretly just raging a little bit on the inside. So, frankly, I haven't been too effective so far this game. I'm 3-2-0. I haven't really been controlling the runes. Nightstalker's been out ganking me. The one thing I have been doing a good job of is farming. And I've gotten a few runes, but just whenever I've ganked, they've had more heroes at the point of attack. Bit of bad luck for me, bit of bad decision making as well. This will happen, but when you play carry Tiny, you have a plan B. You can farm and go for the bigger items, go for more damage, and be more effective in the mid to late game. So I think this is a point in the game where we're just going to see me farming a bit more. So we'll fast forward through it. But I want you to keep in mind, just look at what's going on around the map. If I don't have a TP, that is a major no-no. You should always be carried one. Again, he's a great counter ganker with the move speed he has from the phase boots and the drum. and the burst damage as well. I'm actually going to get pulled back into middle lane, and then immediately decide to dive the tower. This is the combo you want to try and hit. Avalanche and then toss. I actually use a drum charge, and I get that kill. Will I get stunned? I think CK's out of mana. Ideally, if you avalanche and then immediately toss an enemy, it works better if you're on top of them. You will have an opportunity to do up to double the avalanche damage. And in which case, Warlock just dies instantly there. I don't have to chase him. But you can see Tiny already is quite mobile, even without having a Yasha, even without having a level 16, which is where his ultimate gives him the most possible move speed. So, just a little bit of bottle crowing. I think I go for the point booster, and I can't remember at this point if I go straight into the Yasha, or if I go straight into the aghanims, or if I go back for the Yasha. It's pretty flexible what you do, and I've seen a lot of pros will change it up. Sometimes you'll even see them maybe go for a Blink Dagger or an Arcane Boots to help the team, and then later replace them with Phase Boots. And sometimes you'll see them rush the Aghanim, sometimes you won't see them do it. But I am trying to set up kills right now in the bottom lane. So we'll watch that. Wyatt, is he gonna go down? I just want you guys to notice how difficult it is to actually bring me down. Craggy just constantly proccing, and the Warlock ult just misses. But Tiny, because of the move speed he has, and as you start to level up Craggy, you actually get some pretty decent armor too. At least for a strength hero who has such a low base armor. That is one of Tiny's weaknesses, is his low base armor. But if you get early levels, another benefit to going solo mid is that your armor will be higher in the mid game. But he's actually quite hard to track down, even without having those items that generally are used to make you elusive and help you jump in and out of fights. So whenever you're going to be aggressive with ganking, you do want to try and keep in mind what abilities your opponents have to actually prevent you from TPing away. Because oftentimes you'll find yourself in the position I was in there, just too far in, not in a good spot, and in danger of getting picked off. So in that case, I TP'd out. Warlock probably should have caught me with his ult, but even then, he's using Warlock ult for a single kill, so it wouldn't be too bad there. But yeah, whenever you're playing an aggressive hero like this, if you can just try and track which abilities can cancel TPs. Oh wow, really, Epicenter? And I make a big mistake here. I toss him up in the air, so I interrupt his Epicenter, which is kind of unfortunate. It does work out for our team in the end, but that is something to be careful about. Now, the smart thing you can do, the cool combo we could do, is you get Channel Epicenter, and then I toss him in once it starts going off. That would work really well. That would be a really powerful combo. It's also great with heroes like Enigma, or even Tidehunter, if you toss them in and sets up a fight. That's the other reason that Tiny doesn't really need a blink. That's the other reason this build works, in a lot of cases. Is because, first of all, you have the move speed, so it sort of makes up for the lack of mobility items. And then, it's a team game. Tiny doesn't have to be the one who starts every fight. He just has to be the one who's in there doing the big right clicks, and as long as he gets in range for his combo at some point, that's good enough. I go to farm the spider lanes because I figure I can go back for the creep wave, and want to try and cut them off. If you're playing Broodmother, you really do want to be careful about this. That was probably like 3 or 4 creeps worth of gold. Not the biggest loss, but it does add up. But yeah, I mean, so far I would say I'm not being that effective. I'm 5-2-1. But considering how much farm I have right now, some of these are spiderlings, but mostly it is lane creeps. I'm not quite at that point where I want to be. But Tiny, as far as carries go, his core items are actually much cheaper than most carries. Aghanims is not that expensive. It's about a little bit less than the cost of... I mean, it's comparable to, let's say, a Desolator, which is one of the cheaper damage items in the game. And Manta style, you don't even need a completed Manta to be effective with Tiny. You really just need the Aghanims and maybe a Yasha. So his core is a little bit cheaper, so even if you don't have a great start as far as farming goes, he's got good AoE nukes to clear creep waves, so you can catch up pretty well on him. He also provides some utility before you even have the items. So, like, that's one of the reasons. Like, if you're not the best at farming, but you want to get a sort of your feet wet playing a hero who can carry like a Tiny, then I think he's a great choice, because you don't have to have a perfect start. It's okay to miss some creeps. It's okay to die occasionally. It's also a little bit more fun. You get to kill things earlier on. You get to be a big angry rock running around the map. Do rocks have feelings? I don't know. Well, let's just call it a big angry rock anyway. So, I'm just going to be pushing in mid now. It looks like I'm going back for the Yasha. It could be the Aghanims, but I think this is the Yasha. Now, I'm telling Fleshwind here, make sure whoever TP's in to immediately glimpse them back. And this is, if you're ever playing Disruptor, on a totally unrelated note to carry Tiny, very cheeky thing you can do. Push a tower, and then when they TP in, glimpse them back. And now, I think we actually get the tower here. We at least do a lot of damage to it. No, we're gonna back off now. I don't know why I went in and then ran away. That's like the most indecisive I've ever been in my life. Yeah, don't go out to a restaurant with me if I'm in this mood. This rock just doesn't know what he wants to eat. Do rocks eat? I don't think they do. Okay, we're getting a little off topic. So at this point in the game, I don't really have my full core up. I'm kind of just... You'll notice whenever I was trying to gank, there was usually 3 or 4 heroes there. I didn't have too many easy kills, although now I'm starting to find them. If you're not finding easy kills, then what you should do is don't overextend diving for them, don't get greedy. I'm a player personally. I get very frustrated if my opponents are just in good position and they're constantly defending ganks. But Tiny is a hero where you really don't need to be ganking constantly. It's nice, he can be very effective. But if you're going for this build, you're going to offer your team a lot with items, so... Don't overcommit, even if you're someone like me who naturally can get on tilt pretty easily, try and keep that in check, try and keep your eye on the bigger picture, and just make sure you continue to farm. 5 CS a minute at this point, some of it's spiderling, so it's not quite there. It's still pretty decent farm. It's not what you would see from a pro, it's not what you would see... The other thing is I went solo mid, and normally when professional teams run carry Tiny, they run him as a safe laner, and they put him with someone like a Wisp. The reason they do this is because his laning stage is just not that strong. He's a melee hero, he's got low base armor, he can be harassed, he's not going to be able to handle a hero like Invoker or Queen of Pain. That's why I was very happy to be up against a Night Stalker this game. One of the other reasons that Yashas and Mad Style are great items in Tiny. Mad Style is going to be a great item this game because they have a silence from the Night Stalker. I think they're going to have an Orchid from the Brood. Yeah, they already have it. So Manta Style does remove those silences when you use it, for anyone who doesn't know. So it's very effective in that respect. I'm actually being pulled back to a fight. This is where I very foolishly... I got a little bit annoyed that he pulled me in. So like, alright, I guess we're going to fight then. So I charged in, and then I just get kited. This is one of Tiny's weaknesses. Even with the... Oh, he just fingered a creep! Oh, that's funny. I'm still dead though. I don't have a TP scroll. But this is... Tiny is a melee carry, so above all else, he is fairly dependent on his team to set things up. He doesn't have a gap closer like Waveform or Blink to enter fights instantly. That's why traditionally people go for Blink Daggers. So because of that, you'll see if you have a numbers disadvantage, he can be dealt with by the enemy team. Chain stuns, silences, hexes. Even things like Yule Step or Force Staff will be pretty effective against Tiny. Now the move speed, especially the completed Manta and when you're using drum charges, sometimes he could run you down anyway. But you saw there a little bit, sort of a peek at some of the weaker points of Tiny. But at this point, again, my goal is just getting up that Agonum Sceptor. I really want the damage to work with. We'll actually go back to fast forwarding since I'm dead anyway. I've been bottle crowing a lot. Again, I think it's something that could be, like, if you're not getting runes especially, as soon as you realize your opponent's going to get the rune, if your team's not using the courier, it saves you a trip to base and make sure you have full mana. If you go for the carry Tiny build, one of your weaknesses is going to be your mana pool is significantly lower. And Tiny already has a very low int gain, very low mana pool. His combo's pretty expensive. Here comes the boat. We're going to see, let's see how good of a job do I do in this fight, actually staying on top of enemy heroes. And that's something I actually want you to keep an eye on. Actually toss our Kunkka forward to try and set up this kill here. But something I want you to keep an eye on, when you're fighting as Tiny and you're trying to finish kills, sometimes rather than auto-attacking, it's better just to run next to your opponents, to wait for toss cooldown, and then make sure you get in one last toss. Because when you toss an opponent, you will get at least one auto-attack off on them while they're in midair. Ideally, you attack them, you toss them, and then you attack them again. So you should be able to get two, unless they're really fast. So in this case, I actually toss my ally forward, but sometimes you will just want to make sure you're running next to an opponent in order to get off an extra toss, rather than just trying to auto-attack. Warlock takes one for the team, jumps in front of the bullet for the president being a vampire for some reason. The Night Stalker. It's no big deal, though. So we do set up the kill in the end, and I think now I am getting close to my aghanims. How close am I? No, still a ways to go. Okay, we'll fast forward a little bit more. But this game especially, I'm up against a couple of heroes where Aghanims is going to be very powerful. And some of the things I haven't talked about yet is, why do you go for this carry build? Why is Tiny a strong late game carry? Well, he does an absolutely ridiculous amount of burst damage early game with Avalanche Toss, that combo. But later on in the game, he has the potential to do great physical damage because Grow gives him so much damage that if he just gets attack speed, that's why he doesn't need that many items to really hit hard. He gets an AoE cleave from the ultimate form, or from having the ultimate form, from having Grow leveled up, and having an Agonum Sceptor. And then he also just gets, he also just hits very, very hard. So that's, all you really need is attack speed. I mean, you could even rush just a Mask of Madness, and you'd probably be one of the, and potentially, you're doing the most damage on the map. Tiny can even out-carry heroes like Anti-Mage or Faceless Void, hard carries in the late game, because of that, because of just how hard he hits. So it's important to get the Agonum Scepter up. You don't want to be distracted by ganking too much. If you're ganking effectively, then yes, keep it up. But if you're dying, if they're just having more heroes, you want to be farming. So every time that I die, it's going to be probably about a minute, 2 minutes of not farming, which means at least a 2-minute delay on that Agonum Scepter. I've died a couple of times now. If you're going for carry Tiny, it's really important to minimize those deaths. Or if you're going to die, make sure that you're getting something good in return. More so, I would say, than other carries, because it's like Anti-Mage getting a Manta style, but on steroids. Once you get the Aghanims, the game just, you really break the game wide open. And I don't want to be on that. I want to be on player perspective. Okay, so the fight's about to break out. Let's actually just keep a close eye on what am I doing in this fight. What is the Tiny going to be doing? So with the DD rune picked up, you'll notice one auto attack just removed about all of his health. DD rune and haste rune on Tiny, probably the two best runes you can get. Invis rune is nice to set up ganks, but in the mid to late game, you just chew through enemy supports. The burst, and this is the difference between Tiny and a lot of other carries, is you can just instantly kill their supports in a matter of seconds. And this is, again, just my physical attacks, not even using the combo. And because of that burst damage, it means a 4+1 or a +1 situation off the bat for your team. This is better. I toss him after the epicenter instead of canceling his channel. And now the chase is on. Burrow strike in, one more auto attack, and there's your triple kill. I just want you guys to realize, let's actually watch that again. Just watch how quickly everyone drops here to a DD Tiny. One auto attack. 2/3 of his health. Another auto attack. Now the epicenter does most of the damage here that I suck on the Chaos Knight, but look at this. Look at this right click. Just chopping through. That is a Night Stalker. This is a hero that is normally very naturally tanky. 10 base armor, high strength gain. He's going for tank items. He's got the Ogre Club picked up. He's got the cloak to help mitigate the magical damage, and he still just gets chopped to bits very easily. And I don't have the Aghanims up yet. I'm not cleaving yet. That's where things get a lot scarier. So something else I want to talk about is carry Tiny. He is a good damage dealer. He is a strong carry, but he's especially good against illusion-based carries. Now the reason for this is, well, on the one hand, you could say illusion-based carries counter him because they do mana burn, which Tiny's mana dependent. Especially if you get a Diffusal Blade on a Nog or a PL, that can really shut him down. Or even a Chaos Knight, it can be an effective item. But the thing about it is that Tiny, he hits so hard with that cleave that illusions just melt before him almost instantly. And you're going to see later this game that even when Chaos Knight uses his ult, it doesn't matter. I just Avalanche Toss and the illusions all die without pretty much getting to do none of their damage potential. So the Aghanims is going to be up soon. I'm about 600 gold away. Again, I'm trying to be very efficient with my time. And this is probably not the best place to be farming. If they had any kind of wards, I would be dead. So that was a mistake. And now we want to kill Chaos Knight. Here goes the silence. Nope, the Warlock. Oh, uh-oh. Uh-oh. I don't know why I'm going back. This is very manly. Tiny is a manly hero, what can I say? But, yeah, that's a little questionable to go back in. Especially since so many were missing. Again, notice how I'm trying to run on top of the Lion here. The reason I'm trying to do that is to make sure I can hit him with Toss. Unfortunately, I will go down in the end. Just a little bit overextended. That's okay, though. No big deal. I set my team up for the fight there. It was aggressive, but because you have so much burst damage, you can be aggressive. Because, again, even if you're down a man, you can turn the fight around and make it even or give yourself an advantage almost instantly. So we'll fast forward a little bit more. Just farming. Looking to get my Aghanims up, and we find a Chaos Knight. I gotta say, Tiny works well with a friend, so that's something else I haven't really talked about this game. He's got a nice amount of burst damage, but normally you need something to follow up to find the kills. So when I've been effective, it's normally with the Sand King and or the Disruptor there. This isn't really, it's not really a Morphling with an Ethereal Blade. Now I've got the big stick. This deserves a zoom. This deserves a zoom in for a moment. Oh man, that is one fine piece of rock ass, I gotta say. Although he could stand to use a little bit, lose a little bit of weight. Use a little bit of weight. But you'll notice in general when I've been successful in ganks, I've been successful because my team is there as well. Still a very even game in a certain sense, but now I'm just going to be able to get kills so easily. BKB is not really going to help you too much here as far as fighting goes. It will help you to run away, but that's not really what you want to be doing as Night Stalker. Just me and the Disruptor basically being buddies. The tradition or the recent combo of Flavor of the Month has been the Wisp Tiny combo, which is amazing because it gives you it gives you an extra stun to work with. It gives you the move speed from the Tether and the attack speed from Overload. So it's a really nice combo. But you'll notice his illusions here. I don't know if you guys saw that, but they're actually getting stunned by Craggy repeatedly in this fight. Yeah, so just watch these illusions, how little damage they're actually able to do. Normally CK illusions are just chopping through. Instantly, he used Reality Rift there, and immediately those illusions got stunned. Now they're gonna get stunned again. Yep, another stun, I think.
Radiant's top tower is under attack.
No, maybe not. I thought I saw more there. But yeah, either way, it really does limit the damage potential of melee heroes, especially illusion-based ones. And again, Avalanche Toss and one right click, and look, the Illusion Army is gone. Chaos Knight is not so scary without his band of horses. If it's just a lone rider, you can run him down, and that's what we're seeing here. But Tiny really does need his team around him. Again, if you go for this build, you don't have the Blink Dagger, you don't have the items to set up solo kills early. Later on, if you have enough damage items, you can find solo kills, especially with runes. But you're going to be more effective with your team. Don't go around thinking you're a Morphling with a shotgun and you can just find solo kills all game, because really you're just not as effective. You don't have the same level of initiation. You don't have as many ways to dodge. You don't have waveform to dodge spells. You don't have replicate to get out of trouble. You're pretty fast. You're pretty tanky, but not quite as effective in that sense. So a little bit of action. What we're going to see coming up soon is the ability of Tiny to just win games. Not even just in terms of hero damage, but in terms of mowing down buildings. So that's sort of this is, to me, is really why he's, above all else, why he's such a powerful carry. Another TP out, you see Craggy stunning the Night Stalker. Again, I wait for the Cast Bolt, I wait for the Void, and then I just pray to God that no other stuns come in, and then I'm able to escape. Not having enough stuns because the line is dead really hurts them in this situation. But yeah, keep an eye on the buildings. After I win a fight with Tiny, even more so than an anti-mage with a Manta style, a Morphling with a bunch of items, Tiny just mows down buildings. And that's the key to winning a game of Dota. It's not getting the hero kills, it's not doing a lot of damage to other heroes. It's winning a fight and then turning it into Rex. And that's what Tiny really does shine at. That's coming up soon, but before it does, we have some more clubbing action. We're going to look at this now. DD Rune picked up. And this Warlock really should be running right now. I actually saved them both. Again, Toss can be double-edged sword, and now I'm going to go down. You see, notice whenever I'm dying, right? It's always 3 or 4 heroes surrounding me and focusing me down. This is how you deal with Tiny. It's how you deal with any carry, but especially because he's a melee carry, he's not as mobile. He can be focused like that. And again, it's a situation where 3 or 4 heroes group up with me. The BKBs don't really do too much versus me, but just the incapacitating bite, limiting my ability to actually land my auto attacks, giving me that missed chance. And just the 4v1 situation. So it's a bad fight. It looks like it anyway. I think Kunkka is going to die here. Rude drives them back. Kunkka goes back in. Not going to find anything, but we don't care about him. We are all about the Tiny in this game. So let's fast forward ahead just a few seconds. So now I have the Manta style up, and once you get Manta, you don't really need a BKB, although sometimes it will be important, but in this game, I think the Manta is really what I needed. Just not only does it remove the silences, also will remove some of their slows as well, particularly that Void slow. So it will allow me to catch up in fights. It'll allow me to sort of shake off that initial barrage of spells, and then go in for round 2. Manta, a fantastic item to have on Tiny because the damage is just so high. So chopping through the tower. I think I get Rax here. And we're going to go back in a second and just look at the clock. No, I don't get Rax just yet. But let's see, how long did that actually take? So 40, 47. Okay, 40, 26 is when I breach high ground. And so it's in 21 seconds. Is that Wrath right? 21 seconds. Or is it? Yeah. Yeah, 40, 26 to 40, 47. So 20 seconds to kill a tier 3, force out a glyph, and do massive damage to the Rax. I don't kill it, but again, force out the glyph. The next time we win a fight, that's going to be Rax. So, you know, it's a really nice... one of the other reasons why having Wisp on the team is great is in the late game scenarios, is you can actually relocate it with Wisp and Tiny, and if you have the creeps there, even if you don't, you can often backdoor the Rax. So, big team fight breaking out. This is not a winnable fight, so I'm just going to go farm. Again, I want to keep momentum on this top lane. Now that I've started to expose it, I should have kept on pushing. I think we want to fight Roshan, maybe? Not sure. But one of the best things you can do as a carry in general is just constantly push the lanes so that they either have to lose Rax, and yeah, they're going to lose Rax now. In a matter of like 8 seconds, it will go down. And now, Disruptor glimpses one back immediately. Yes, he does. Very cheeky play by him. Rax are claimed, so at this point, we have a big advantage. But yeah, that's why you want to keep the wave pushed in as a carry. And the burst damage. Lion gets silenced. I gotta say, really nice Disruptor play in this game. The silence is shutting down Lion. Lion is my arch nemesis. At this point, I'm waiting for my Manta style. That's gonna allow me to remove some of these slows and TP out. I'm gonna TP out. Yeah, I'm gonna get away. So this is almost, I would say this isn't even just your core items. This is also at least one of your luxury items for carry Tiny, that being the Manta style. Beyond that, you can go for BKB if you're worried about chain stun. If you just want more damage, more pushing power, Assault Cuirass is a fantastic item. Generally, attack speed items will be a lot more effective on Tiny than damage items. You know, even getting an item like Divine Rapier, it's not going to be that good on Tiny because he already has so much damage from his ultimate. What you need is just more attack speed so you hit harder. You already have the AoE cleave as well. And I'm going to waste this ruin an enemy smoke there and then lurk on the high ground perhaps. What is that courier doing? What is that courier doing? So I'm kind of trying to bait out some spells and then I charge in with the big stick, looking to set up kills. And it just takes a couple of auto attacks at this point and everyone will die. Yeah, I think this is going to be a triple kill. Just look at how easily I chop through the Night Stalker's HP pool. But yeah, Daedalus is a great item on him because his damage is so high that you'll be critting off of a very high amount of damage. So it's another item to pick up on him. Generally, I would say Assault Cuirass is going to be your best damage item, and then after that, we saw I think the most farm Tiny there's ever been in a competitive game was the eHome Lamb Tiny from the International, which by the way is a game definitely worth watching if you wanted to see the power of a Wisp Tiny combo when played properly. Yeah, I can actually go toe-to-toe with Broodmother. Normally a very strong 1v1 hero. Especially with incapacitating life. She can't handle me. But that Tiny went for a Butterfly, and I think that's actually an amazing late game item for Tiny. The other nice benefit to getting these attack speed items is they generally give you a lot of armor. And again, that is a bit of a weakness for Tiny. Even when you max out Craggy, even when you get Manta style, his armor's still not the best, so Assault Cuirass helps with that. Butterfly and the evasion is amazing. It also buffs up your illusions as well, so I think Butterfly might be the best choice after the Assault Cuirass. But honestly, if you have this many items, you should be winning the game anyway. Tiny, really, I'm not sure there's many heroes that out-carry him 1v1 as far as just raw damage dealt goes, as far as late game potential goes. Again, the way to counter him is with outnumbering him, with kiting him, with lots of hexes, Sights of Vice. Also just mobility items, things like Force Staff. Eventually, late game, Ghost Scepter isn't bad either, because that's where he's not really killing with nukes, he's killing with the auto attack. But it's just a little more fountain camping at this point, so I think we're pretty much done. Let's just see, how many kills do I get in the fountain? I get 0. I buy back, I TP in. Got my boots of travel. I think the ancient dies here. That's it. So that does it for carry Tiny. It's a little bit of a longer game. Kind of meandering at times, again. I'm a little bit rusty, guys, but in the end, when we look at the final scoreboard, I lead the way in terms of kills, I lead the way in terms of farm. And I out-carried a Broodmother who got decent farm, a Chaos Knight who can be a very powerful late-game carry who also got decent farm. A couple of carries. We had a Kunkka, honestly, didn't do very much. He was 3 and 8. Our Disruptor played very well, nice support, but Tiny can carry quite hard, and the nice thing about him in pub games is that he's not a hero like Anti-Mage who needs a while to come online. Like, Tiny could get going early, so I think we saw a bit of the versatility of him in this game. But that's going to do it for this episode, so I'm now going to open up the floor to any questions that you guys have. So if you haven't already done so, now is your opportunity to ask me, and let's bring that webcam back in. The best way to maximize your avalanche toss combo is actually to stun and then toss. I think it's 0.5 seconds later. I remember the exact math, but yeah, avalanching and then tossing will do more, because if you toss first and then avalanche, at least that first wave of avalanche damage is not going to be hitting while they're in the air. So it's going to hit a little bit later, and then you're not going to get the double damage effect. Again, the avalanche damage comes in waves, so even if you do toss first and then avalanche, it's still going to do the majority of the... It's going to do maybe, I don't know, anywhere from 80 to 90% of the damage. It's still strong, don't get me wrong, but the ideal combo is avalanche first and then follow up with toss. Damage items, what about crit? Yeah, Daedalus, as far as just raw damage items goes, is the one that you would want to get, because Manta-style illusions get crit, so it's very effective in that sense, since you normally want to build Manta on carry Tiny. And then also, he's got really high damage, so crit's going to be very powerful. What do I think about early Tranquil Boots to Vladimir's? I don't really like Vladimir's on Tiny. If you want to play him as more of a support utility hero, perhaps it could be a decent item. There's nothing wrong with Tranquil Boots. I just think Phase Boots offer you so much more, and it really addresses a lot of his weaknesses as a carrier, which is his lack of mobility, his inability to chase effectively. Tranquil Boots are great for moving around the map, but they're not going to help you chase in combat, because you're going to be taking damage. They're not going to be moving as quickly. You also can't path through stuff. And that's one of the weaknesses for melee carries who don't have mobility skills in general, is they kind of just get stuck on stuff, and they have trouble finding their way around. So, Tranquil Boots into Vlad's. That question was by Freaking Fast Fingers. Yeah, I don't think that's normally the way to go. Not if you're playing carry Tiny anyway. So, any other questions from the chat? Seems like a very quiet group tonight, guys. Come on. Why is Wisp so strong with Tiny? Well, that question is from LDdota. LDdota? Sorry if I'm butchering your name. Anyway, the reason that Wisp is so strong with Tiny is that she addresses a lot of his weaknesses and synergizes amazingly well with him. I talked about how generally Tiny needs the help of his team to get kills, even when he's got the damage items, because he doesn't have the mobility skills. Wisp gives you that mobility with Tether. She gives you the additional stun coming through in the Tether as well. She gives you the attack speed from Overpower, which is the #1 thing you need to increase your physical damage. She gives you a little bit more burst with Orbs. She helps you chase. She gives you Relocate, which honestly, if you guys watched eHome, they actually don't really use Relocate that much to gank globally. What they'll do is, once their team starts winning a fight, they use Relocate to chase down the straggler heroes. And I think that's the ideal way to use it, because if you use it as a global ganking spell, a well-prepared team will bait, and then they'll just turn things around. Or they just won't get caught out, so you won't have the options. So I think Wisp is the perfect combo, because everything she does just works so well with Tiny. It's the synergy. It's not just Wisp being OP as a support, it's just how well she works with Tiny together. Any other questions? Very, very quiet day for the chat. Did you guys enjoy my stories at least? Were they entertaining? I know it was a little long-winded today, but hopefully you found some of the stories pretty amusing. I am planning on doing a full-length VOD about the International, so stay tuned for that, guys. What do I think about Treads give you more attack speed early on? It helps you killing a lot in pubs, and the Beastmaster Venge combo. This question comes from Make Your Age. So I think he's asking, what about the potential to stack up auras with Beastmaster's Inner Beast and the damage aura, the Vengeance aura, I believe it's called, from Vengeful Spirit, and also getting Treads for more attack speed. The problem with getting Treads for attack speed is that it really limits your overall movement speed in team fights. When you get Phase Boots, you're going to be getting a huge flat damage boost whenever you go into Ghost form. This then gets increased, but as well as you also get a flat damage move speed buff from his Grow ability. So those two in combination, when you activate your Phase Boots going into that Ghost form, I don't know if it's called Ghost form, whatever it's called, I can't even remember off the top of my head. As well as the grow. Those flat move speed increases are then increased by a percentage by items like Mantis Style and Drums. So if you don't add that big flat move speed bonus from the phase boots, it really limits your overall move speed. And you can have all the attack speed in the world, but if you can't stay on top of enemy heroes, if you can't stay next to them, you can't keep up with them, your attack speed doesn't do you any good. So phase boots, I don't think it works with carry Tiny. I think phase boots are a fine item for ganking Tiny. You can micro the treads to give you some attack speed, and then you have a little bit more damage potential late game than, say, arcane boots. Or you can micro the treads to maximize your bottle charges, I meant to say. So I think they're okay for a ganker style. I don't think they're the best choice for carry Tiny. Yeah, it's you're right. I mean, if you have Django and Drums of Endurance and Yasha, you do have some mobility from those. So it can be enough. It depends on the team composition. If you have a lot of players or heroes to help set you up, a lot of stuns, a lot of slows, heroes like Venomancer or Lina or Leshrac, then it can work better. Shadow Demon maybe. But I really think it's not just the move speed; it's also being able to path through creeps it becomes very important for a melee carry. Ishnuwala asks, if you're going for the Blink Dagger route, what is a decent target time to acquire it? Like 15-minute mark, for example. That's a decent time. It depends. So if you're not going for carry time, if you're going for more of a ganker style, then yeah, I mean, 15 minutes isn't bad. It depends also what else you're building, because Tiny can't just rush a naked Blink Dagger. If he's going to go Blink, it's another thing that costs mana that he has to use. So at that point, he needs at least a bottle and a wand, probably treads as well, or arcane boots. So you can't really you can rush a naked Blink Dagger, but you pretty much use one combo and then you have to go back to base if you go for it. So you could get a Blink sooner. I would say just rushing a Blink and having just boots, probably more like 10 to 12 minutes would be a good time for it. But with your other items, yeah, 15 minutes isn't bad. Now, I will say, if you want to go carry Tiny, you could get a Blink Dagger. You could get a Force Staff. It's not like you can't get those items. It's just that you don't really need them that much. The whole idea is that your team's going to help you in fights in terms of staying on top of here so you can do the right clicks. Okay. I think that does it for the questions. Facklin has another question about ganker Tiny, not carry Tiny. But he asked, "What is your opinion on Dagon 5 level Tiny?" I love Dagon 5. I love burst damage. I love Ethereal Blade. My favorite skill item build in the game, or at least the funniest one I've ever done, is Ethereal Blade Dagon level 5 as Bounty Hunter up against an anti-mage, unfortunately. So he got a BKB and then we lost the game. But I think I was like 25, 3, and 8 before all was said and done. And Tiny, he's a burst damage hero to begin with. Dagon's always going to be good on burst damage heroes, but only if you get it quickly. If you're behind, then you can get a Dagon, you can use your combo, and you won't even kill a support. So it can work, but generally level up Dagon's not going to be very cost efficient. Okay, guys, that does it for today's episode. Thank you very much for tuning in. If you want to catch the VOD, if you missed today, if you missed any of the other episodes, go to youtube.com/LDdota. The VODs will be there. Go to dotacommentaries.com. Click on the Dota Show, and you'll find links to all of the episodes. Lumi's episodes can be found at youtube.com/luminousinverse. I believe he did an episode focusing on the long lane yesterday. I've done a few of those as well, so you can definitely check those out. But that does it for today. Tomorrow I will be back with what was supposed to happen today. That's going to be taking an in-depth look at initiation, something that, we saw a little bit of initiation today, so maybe we can even talk about some of the things we saw here. But yeah, just initiation. How do you do it properly? Different kinds of initiation. Early game ganking, mid game initiation, team fights. We'll try and take a look at initiation and a couple of different types of initiation. But that does it for today, guys. Thank you all very much for tuning in. I'm gonna go get some rest. I'm gonna go. Maybe I might actually play some pubs. We'll see. But yeah, actually I might play some pubs. That sounds really good. But that does it for now. So thanks for watching, guys. I will see you tomorrow for initiation in Dota 101. Good night.